We're joining you live from Florida. Why? Well, it's been a busy past 2 days at the winter White House. Two world leaders traveled to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump. In just a moment, you're going to hear from one of those leaders, my interview with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. That's straight ahead. I will also speak with Senator John Fetterman. He has been a steadfast supporter of Israel. What else does he support? Striking Iran, if necessary. It's something President Trump is threatening. Trump also threatened to strike inside Venezuela. But now it's not a threat anymore. It has happened. More on that coming up. And the United States is also targeting massive, outrageous fraud in the state of Minnesota. Did the governor, Tim Walz, turn a blind eye? A state lawmaker says yes. She joins me to discuss her repeated warnings to the governor. But first, this week at Mar-a-Lago in Florida, it was war and peace. President Trump hosted Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. They publicly discussed Gaza, the West Bank, Syria, Turkey, and Iran. President Trump says Iran may be behaving badly. This, as reports emerged, that Iran is rebuilding its ballistic weapons program, weapons that could hit Israel. And if Iran rearms, President Trump has threatened to, quote, knock the hell out of them. Earlier here in Florida, I spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Mr. Prime Minister, nice to see you again, sir.
Good to see you, Greta.
Love to have you here in the United States.
Well, it's warm and sunny and very friendly.
Indeed it is. I want to talk first about Ron Gavili. He is the last hostage. He's not alive, but he's the last hostage. Hamas has not returned his remains. Is that because they don't know where his remains are, or are they lying?
Well, we're looking for him. And I have to say I was deeply moved when President Trump, who's been the greatest friend we've ever had in the White House, by far, he met the family. And you should see how his heart went out for them. You know, the parents of this hero, he single-handedly, he ran to the front on October 7th when these monsters invaded us, raped our women and murdered them, beheaded our men, burned our babies. He fought single-handedly with a broken arm. And then he got shot twice. And he killed 14 of these terrorists until the very last moment, and the last bullet. And then they killed him and took his body, so we're going to bring him back. And the president was right. He said, we'll get him back, and we'll get him back, one way or the other.
President Trump once said, I heard him talk about, I thought, like, well, if he's dead, why bring him back? But once he talked to the families of different survivors, he got it, why it was so important to return the remains, even knowing that it was not a live body not a live person being brought back.
You know, people have that sentiment that, at the very least, they want to have a grave that they can come to. And I understand that. But in any case, you know, with our combined efforts, we brought in the last 20 live hostages. Nobody believed it. But President Trump and I believed it, and we coordinated our efforts. We on the military side, he on the political side, made a tremendous coalition. And we got 254 altogether out of 255. One left.
But is Hamas, do you think Hamas knows where his remains are? Or?
Well, you know, I can't tell you, but I can tell you we'll get him back.
Hamas. Has Hamas, I know yesterday President Trump said that Israel's 100% kept its agreement under the 20-point program. Has Hamas, because obviously not returning Mr. Gavili is one thing that they were supposed to do, but what about the other steps that are required?
Well, I think the president had it right. You know, we've battered them. I mean, they were part of this larger Iranian axis, and we had a seven-front war with Iran and its proxies. And we achieved great things. And against Iran, with President Trump's help and what he calls the beautiful B-1s, you know, they are incredible machines. And only America has it. And only America had President Trump to send them. So we accomplished great things, but we still have things to finish. One of the things we have to finish is to get Hamas disarmed. And President Trump couldn't have been more explicit on that. That's part of the deal. That's part of their commitment. And they have to get rid of these, you know, they still have 20,000 fighters. We've obliterated a lot, but they're all armed with Kalashnikov rifles, and they execute the Palestinians who resist them. So you've got, altogether, they have 60,000 assault rifles. That's disarming them, you know, and we'll get it. We'll do it.
In terms of getting those arms into Gaza, it appears to me, right, and I think that I read, is they were coming through the Philadelphia corridor,
right,
which Egypt was supposed to guard. So obviously Egypt or whoever was supposed to guard it didn't guard it effectively because you wouldn't have had all those weapons on October 7th in the bloodbath.
Well, they had tunnels underneath for smuggling them. That's why I insisted on going there. But that was only part of the larger thing. We changed the Middle East. We've had an unbelievable success, and by degrading Iran, which was a first-rate power, now it's a second-rate or third-rate power. They were throwing their weight all over the place, exporting terrorism, not only to every part of the Middle East, but to Venezuela. They're in cahoots with the Maduro regime, you know. They're exporting terrorism to America, to the American hemisphere, and then they want these Hezbollah and Hamas to get their guys into the United States. So Hamas and Iran's and its proxies are a threat not only to us, but to Israel, all America's allies in the Middle East, and to America itself. I think we've dealt them devastating blows, but there's still some work to be done with the proxies, and we're doing it.
Well, you mentioned Venezuela. Venezuela's had, Senator Marco Rubio has been speaking about this, or Secretary Marco Rubio has been speaking about this a long time. Hezbollah does have its foothold in Venezuela, has for a long time, is the drug trade. They may use guns against Israelis, but they use drugs against the United States.
Exactly. Well, I wouldn't eliminate the possibility of arms shipment from
that may be next
from Iran to Venezuela. So this has got to change. I mean, and I think President Trump is showing remarkable leadership, facing up to that threat here, supporting your fighting ally, Israel, to fight not only for our interests, but also for American interests against these radical Muslims who basically chant death to America, and they mean it. And so we have to make sure they don't have the means to do it or the will to do it, and that's what we're doing.
Well, you and I have spoken many times before, and you always point out that the beef that Israel has is not with the Iranian people, it's with the Iranian regime.
Right.
And now, in the last few days, they've had a series of protests, people out in the street because they've had a currency collapse. Do you see this as perhaps a big change maybe coming in Iran, or is this just something that Iran is going through right now?
Well, they're going through it for a very simple reason. You know, this tyrannical regime has oppressed the people of Iran. They're great people, enormously gifted, with a great past, and they could have a great future. But this future has been taken over, really hijacked by these theological thugs, the mullahs and the Ayatollah who's on top of them. And what did they do? They took the billions that they had and put them, you know, chasing nuclear weapons and proxy terror groups instead of giving it to the people. So the people don't have food, they don't have electricity, they don't have water. Iran could be one of the richest countries in the world. Their GDP with 100 million people, almost 100 million people, is smaller than Israel's with 10 million people. They've robbed their people of the future, and the people are expressing it now in protest. You know, if you have a change, it'll come from within. It's up to the Iranian people, and we understand what they're going through, and we're very sympathetic to them.
What's actually sort of parallels what's going on in Venezuela, though. I mean, the people there in Venezuela, they've got hyperinflation up to something like 555%. I read recently, which I thought was almost impossible numerically. But they, you know, they're starving. They are one of the richest. They're the richest country, or could be in our hemisphere.
Was actually
because of their supply of petroleum or oil.
Right. Well, when you have these tyrannical regimes, these dictatorial regimes that you know, that suppress any initiative, any free market economies, but any human rights, the people eventually speak up, and that's what they're doing now in Iran. No question about it.
In your wildest dreams 5 years ago, did you think that there'd be this change, this abrupt change to the Middle East? Because now, I mean, the Middle East is undergoing a huge transformation.
Huge, and it creates the opportunities for peace. And President Trump and I are committed to expanding the Abraham Accords in the Middle East and beyond to big Muslim countries, and we think that's within reach. And that's really the job we have before us, A, to assure security, but also to expand peace and prosperity. And that is made possible because of our cooperation. And President Trump has been an incredible president, not only for us, but against the forces of radical Islam that threaten America, and also to build new alliances between Israel and our Arab neighbors and Muslim countries. And I think, you know, he should be credited. He's done a lot for peace. He's solved so many, you know, in a year, he solved so many conflicts around the world. People didn't believe it, you know. Azerbaijan and Armenia. I mean, nobody dealt with that. He dealt with that. And there are many other places. So, I don't know if he'll be given the Nobel Prize because I don't know the makeup of that committee. But I'll tell you one prize he's going to get. And we announced it in the visit. We have the highest prize that Israel can give. It's called the Israel Prize. It's given to exceptional contributions by Israelis. And for almost 80 years, we've had a tradition. Only Israelis get it. Well, that's changed because this year, President Trump will be the first non-Israeli to receive Israel's highest prize, the Israel Prize. And boy, there's so much enthusiasm about it. There's so much support and appreciation for the role he's played, both for Israel, the Middle East, and the world.
Why do you think here in the United States, he's got 50% of the population adore him, mega people, and then you've got 50% of the population that thinks he's awful?
Well, history has a way of settling these questions over time, and people can see who are the outstanding presidents. I'm the son of a historian. I'll tell you, history will judge him well. So sometimes it takes time for people to appreciate, because there's this battle, internal battle of, constant vilification and political opposition. But ultimately, that's settled over time. The dust settles, and you see who made the difference, who really changed things, who brought America back. He did.
It's interesting how, looking back at what he's done in terms of contribution, is it's not just now here towards Israel, but something that may not seem like a huge deal to a lot of people, but is. But in 1995, Congress voted that the U.S. Embassy would move from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
Right.
President Clinton wouldn't do it. President Bush wouldn't do it. President Obama didn't do it. President Trump gets into office his first term and he does it.
Yep. He says it like it is, cuts to the chase, and then he acts. And I think that, and right now he said something else which I very much identify with. He said there are oppressed Christian communities and America has to stand with them. So guess what? We stand with them. We stand with them because the Christians are oppressed everywhere in the Middle East, except one place, Israel. That's the only place where the Christian community is growing and it's thriving because that's part of our ethos. Everywhere else, they shrink. But even in Bethlehem, the birthplace of Jesus, when we controlled Bethlehem 30 years ago, there were more than 80% of Bethlehem's population was Christian. We gave it to the Palestinian Authority 30 years ago, and guess what happened? The Christian population plummeted, and it's now less than 20%. They all leave. They left in Lebanon. They're leaving other parts of, they're leaving Syria. They were kicked out of Turkey, many of them. So I'm committed to defending them as best as I can in the Middle East. And I also identify with what he said about Nigeria. In Nigeria, they're massacring them. To the extent we can help with intel, we'll do that too, because that is one of the things we stand for. And I think you're very lucky to have a man with this conviction, this sense of cutting to the bone, getting right to the heart of things, and to act. You can identify things, and not many leaders can do that. But there are fewer who actually act on what they identify. I think this is a change. You asked me 5 years ago we could imagine this thing. I don't know about 5 years ago, but on the second day of this seven-front war, when we were attacked viciously by Hamas, and the next day by Hezbollah, I said, we will change the Middle East. And that's exactly what we proceeded to do. We changed the Middle East for the better, cutting down the Iranian terror proxy network to size, pushing back the nuclear weapons threat that threatened Israel, but also threatened everyone else. Because if they had nuclear bombs, Iran, to put on ballistic missiles that would ultimately reach the United States, that would have endangered every person in the United States. We acted on it, and we acted on it together, and we changed the Middle East. Now we have opportunities for peace, which we should pursue, and I intend to pursue it with the president.
It seemed from the press conferences that there might be a slight disagreement on what to do about the West Bank. Is that something that the two of you can hammer out together?
Oh, I think so. I mean, we discuss it, but understand Iran is also trying to build terror proxies among the Palestinians there, and funneling them weapons, egging them to murder Israelis, and we've achieved quite a bit there. There's more to do, but I think that's something. I think we see eye to eye. He said there's no daylight between us, and you know what? There really isn't. I mean, yeah, of course we can discuss things. We do. And he said I'm difficult sometimes. Yeah, well, you know.
Your wife probably thinks that too, right?
My wife thinks I'm difficult?
I imagine.
I'm the perfect, what are you talking about? Well, you know, public life takes always costs the family, and because you get, I get attacked, slandered all the time, and that's part of the game. But I don't think my wife Sarah or my kids who were born into it really had an inkling of what they didn't choose this. I mean, they were born into it. Sarah's been like a lioness. You know, she withstands this, and she's been the pivot of our family, and in many ways also the moral support that I've had in critical junctions. And I probably wouldn't be here without her, and without the support of the people of Israel, who are in a very broad swath supporting what I do. And I do it because we have a common mission. You know, we're not going to let these Ayatollahs end Jewish history.
But you know, it's sort of interesting. I was thinking last night, like, okay, you could either be sitting at a beach, or you could be fighting Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas, Iran wanting to destroy Israel. You've got, people at home who probably takes, as a politician, no doubt, take slaps at you. You've got the trial that's ongoing. I mean, you could have a very different life than this. Why this one?
Because it's a mission, which I inherited from my father, my brother, who died while leading their historic raid on Entebbe, which rescued 103 hostages from horrible terrorists, Palestinian terrorists and Germans who were helping them. My mission is to make sure that I do as much as I can in the time that I have allotted on this earth to safeguard the future of the Jewish people and the Jewish state. And that's what I do. That's a mission. Otherwise, what are you in politics for? Power is boring by itself. What does it mean? What, to sit there and play politics by itself? Yes, it's necessary. And yes, you have to do it. But you do it for a cause. That's the cause that I follow. I inherited from my father, from my grandfather, and from the people of Israel who overwhelmingly support me. So I get reelected again and again and again, despite press opposition and all that. It doesn't work. You know why? Because the people identify. They believe what I just told you, and they're right.
Well, you know, the pardon, the discussion of pardon, President Trump thinks, frankly, I do too. I can't imagine having my prime minister, my president immersed in all those fights that I just laid out and worrying about a couple bottles of champagne or something. I mean, I know this isn't I'm not Israeli, but to me, as an outsider, I think, you got to be kidding me. But anyway, are you going to get a pardon?
Well, I don't know. We'll find out very soon. But I'll tell you what I'm being pardoned for. I mean, the whole thing is incredible. They talk about corruption trial. You know what the charges were?
I know. I saw your video. That's why I'm saying that.
Let me tell you about it.
I'm with you on this one.
Because I got so many responses from around the world because people said, we didn't know. So I decided I'll just tell you. So let me tell you. I mean, I was accused of getting positive coverage from a second-rate, third-rate internet site. That was the so-called bribe, okay? So, and it was put forward by this politicized prosecution that wanted to get rid of me because I kept winning elections. So they figured out there's got to be a way to get rid of this guy. And the way you do it is you trump up some charges, fake charges. And the charge was I was receiving positive coverage from this second, third-rate internet site. Okay, so the trial begins. This is years now. It's going on for years.
Yeah, since 2020, isn't it?
No, the investigation started 10 years ago. 10 years ago on this thing, okay. So as the trial unfolds, it turns out I didn't get positive coverage. I got negative coverage, horrible, hateful coverage, completely slanted. The judges 2 years ago called the prosecution in, and they said, hey, drop the bribery charge. There's no bribery here. This is ridiculous. Okay. The prosecution refuses to do it because they're politically motivated. So they said, oh, well, he'll crack. He'll cut a deal and leave office if we bring him to cross-examination. I come to the cross-examination. One of the first things that they say is, Prime Minister, 29 years ago, your son, 5 years old at the time, received a Bugs Bunny doll from a friend. You hear this?
I hear.
This is unbelievable. So
meanwhile, you're fighting a war.
Meanwhile, yeah, I'm
okay,
fighting.
Meanwhile, fighting a war.
Fighting the war. Okay. And I said, yeah. And so that became the Bugs Bunny trial. And then they said, okay, that's what's left. Bugs Bunny and I got some cigars from a friend.
Which you shouldn't smoke anyway, but go ahead.
You're absolutely right. That is a serious charge.
That is a serious charge.
That is a serious charge.
But I can't wait.
So this is what this trial is about. It's about Bugs Bunny and cigars, because the judge has already said there's no bribery, there's nothing. So the whole thing is ridiculous, but it continues because of this politically motivated prosecution that wants to somehow get rid of me because I keep winning the elections.
But here's what I don't understand is that President Herzog is his opposing party. I mean, he knows you're fighting a war, and he can pick up the paper and read what I just did, or he can watch your video. So, I mean, you know, at some point, you know, even if you don't like the other guy or he's an opponent, you do the right thing.
Well, I hope so, and I can tell you that it's the right thing not only because the trial has collapsed and the whole thing is absurd, but also because I have to spend 2 to 3 times a week
during a war.
During a war,
Yeah.
during a war, you know, 8 hours a day. You know, the whole thing is
Well, no trial could even. I've tried cases. I can't imagine how testimony. You know, if I try to keep you on the witness stand, I'll try to keep you here for a long interview, and I can't do that. So I don't know how I keep you on the witness stand asking questions.
Yeah, there's probably not been any Israeli citizen that's been subjected to 3 times a week to appear in court. I mean, that doesn't happen. You know, week after week, month after month, the whole thing obviously distracts me from the real job that we have that we just discussed. Providing security, expanding the peace, expanding the Abraham Accords, doing these unbelievable things that we're doing now, because I'm also pushing Israel into the forefront of AI in cooperation with the United States. I mean, our economy is booming. Do you follow it? I mean, our stock market is probably the best performing stock market in the world.
In the middle of a war.
In the middle of a war.
Which I keep throwing in.
Yeah, well, let me tell you this. I mean, we were just ranked among the 3 best performing economies in the world. It's just incredible. Our currency, our exchange rate is the best it's ever been. Unemployment completely the lowest it's ever been. Inflation low. The whole thing is performing brilliantly because I turned Israel into a free market economy that harnessed the genius of our people. And so, you know, people have tremendous startups, high-tech, the highest high-tech you can imagine. And so people are coming to Israel. And investment in Israel is huge. And people are understanding that Israel has become stronger than it's ever been. After we were surprised and after we had to deal with 7 fronts, Israel's economy is the strongest it's ever been. And Israel, as a power, has become a world power. And I think part of the reason is because we have not only the genius of our people and the right policies that we've had, but also we've had a friend in the White House, second to none. And when Israel is strong, we protect not only ourselves, but also our American allies and America's interests. It's been a tremendous friendship and alliance, not only for our benefit, but for America's benefit as well.
Okay, one last question, because now you have to go. Somaliland. I had to look it up on the map. You have recognized Somaliland. You are the first nation to do so. Now that I know where it is, I studied a little history for it, but why? What provoked that and the timing?
Well, Somaliland has 6 million citizens, moderate Muslims. They want to join the Abraham Accords, and I think that's very good. They are Democrats. They've had elections. The rest of Somalia, which is Kochbaj, has had al-Shabaab terrorists there. Never had elections since for decades. Got a lot of terrorists coming there. So why not support democratic, moderate country, Muslim country that wants to join the Abraham Accords? I think everybody should do that.
But I guess
if we have to be first.
I guess we didn't see it coming, and you were the first nation, and I'm going, Somaliland?
Yeah, Somaliland, yeah.
All right. Well, I'll have to go visit Somaliland. I take you can help me get an interview with the president.
I'll do my best.
All right. Thank you, sir. It's always nice to see you, and nice to see you here in the United States.
Thank you, and I can say this. Merry Christmas to all our Christian friends around the world, but equally a Happy New Year to all. And I hope it'll be a safer and more peaceful and more prosperous year. For Israel, it's been quite that, but we want it for everyone.
Thank you.
Those who want our friendship have it, and those who oppose us and want to obliterate us, they'll fail.
It will indeed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Coming up, a Democrat in the U.S. Senate who is a staunch ally of Israel. Senator John Fetterman joins me.
Ring in the new year with our spectacular celebration full of fun, inspiration, and patriotic spirit. Newsmax takes you to the best parties in the USA, from the iconic ball drop at Times Square to Nashville's Big Bash. Join me along with fitness icon Jillian Michaels, Dr. Drew Pinsky, and legendary singer Lee Greenwood. It's a party for the whole family. Laughter, music, and motivation to start 2026 right. Don't miss our New Year's Eve special starting at 8 p.m.
I really love Balance of Nature.
There's so many vegetables and so many fruits.
I love everything about it.
The brightness of the colors is an indication of the freshness.
I love the freeze-dried process. I love the easiness of it.
Balance of Nature really is just such a phenomenal product. So you got to keep doing it.
Go to balanceofnature.com and lock in 50% off for 1 year when you subscribe to the Whole Health System.
Don't kibble your dog.
Oh, hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
But what's wrong with this? It's premium stuff.
Let's check it out. It's still kibble. And even the best kibbles still get kibbled. Which means they're ultra-processed at extremely high temperatures that destroy the nutrients in the food. Then they have to add synthetic nutrients back in just to meet label requirements.
Are they all like this?
Sadly, they are. These poor pups have low energy, bad digestion, itchiness, and allergies, all from eating ultra-processed junk food for every single meal. But at Dr. Marty, we gently freeze-dried premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, locking in their nutrients.
Real meats, real fruits, real veggies, nothing else. Never kibbled.
You got it, kid. So don't kibble your dog. Dr. Marty will make your best friend healthier, and they're gonna love it, guaranteed.
Democratic Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman has been a strong supporter of Israel. Senator Fetterman also backs future strikes against Iran if necessary. Senator Fetterman from the great state of Pennsylvania joins me. Nice to talk to you, sir. And under what situation would you think strikes in Iran would be necessary again?
Well, if they are able to create a bomb, honestly, you know, we can never, ever allow Iran to acquire a nuclear bomb. And then that's what's necessary to destroy it and fully destroy it, or just damage it to keep setting it back for years and years until they get the message that you are not allowed to do and pursue these kinds of nuclear ambitions. And I fully support, I don't care if Democrat, Republican issue. I mean, it's about civilization. And now I fully support that. And I believe I was the only Democrat that was actually fully calling for those strikes even before they've done them. And I fully support any future ones to prevent them from developing a nuclear bomb.
Well, that certainly makes a lot of good sense to me, but I look back a little bit in history, and I note that they had a nuclear enrichment program that for years we missed, that nobody knew about. So how do we know when they are reaching that point? Do you have trust in our intelligence gathering and in the Israeli intelligence gathering that we will get that information?
Well, of course. I mean, I never supported the deal originally, and they don't have, well, they have nuclear ambitions, but it had nothing to do with nuclear power for electricity. Enrichment, I don't think you have to get it above 5% for that thing. And they accumulated a significant amount of 90% enrichment. Clearly, that's used for a nuclear weapon. And that's why it was entirely supportive to destroy those, you know, because we have the country with the technology and the weapons to do that. And that's entirely normal things. Now, Iran has to get the message. Stop trying to develop a bomb, because they remain committed to destroying the state of Israel, and it can never allow them to acquire these kinds of technologies and stop pretending that it is nothing more than a program to develop a bomb.
In December this month, you wrote a letter to President Herzog in Israel, correct me if I'm wrong, urging that he pardon Prime Minister Netanyahu. First of all, did you write that letter? Secondly, have you heard back?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure who that was private. I mean, I wasn't going to make it public or to make those kinds of thing, but I fully support. I think it's entirely appropriate for the prime minister to have a pardon. I mean, the prime minister has led Israel through that awful Gaza war, and now look where we are at the other end of all of it. And now peace is possible. And why would you distract our country with this kinds of this ridiculous trial? It's truly absurd to put him through this after everything they've accomplished through the last 2 years. I think I read the statement that the president made about it. I've effectively been saying the same thing. He's been a war prime minister, the leader through so much trauma in Israel. And now why put them on trial for these kinds of small ball kinds of thing? I absolutely support a pardon. It's appropriate.
And what do you think Prime Minister Netanyahu's goal was in coming to the United States now?
Well, I think it's to affirm and to strengthen his relationship with the president. I mean, that's smart and that's necessary because I absolutely constantly push back, whether it's come from my party or even with fringes of the Republican side, to try to convince us to turn our back to Israel. And now for me, that's our special ally. And I fully support to stand and proud with Israel. And that's never going to change for me. And now that's one of the things the president and I strongly happen to agree. And again, that's not going to change either, because it's never been about our parties and the kinds of disagreements that we have in other issues. We are in absolutely lockstep in supporting Israel, and we also call it what it is too, the kinds of peace and the big deal that's been achieved now. And I give him the kinds of credit to stand with Israel and to do the kind of things that were necessary to bring us to this point.
Senator John Fetterman, thank you, and Happy New Year, sir.
Oh, you as well, and thanks for having me back.
Thanks, sir. Coming up, President Trump just upped the ante in his fight against narco-terrorists. What did he do? Find out when the record continues.
It's true. I am an America First, liberty-loving Latino. That's why I know this country is worth fighting for. That's why the Chris Salcedo Show will always tell you the truth.
The Chris Salcedo Show, for the news you need to know.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, at 91 years of age, with my wife Shirley, who is 83. Now, both of us are still cutting a wide swath in life, all because of Immuno 150. Now, neither of us have any kind of sickness, and we're as flexible as we were 30 years ago, and we still do the physical things we did 30 years ago. Now, we are asking you to use Immuno 150 like we do. Give it a chance for at least 90 days so that you can see what 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients can do for you. You won't believe it. Immuno 150 is an awesome nutritional supplement. There's nothing like it.
Yes, it really is incredible.
Yeah, try it. You will be surprised. Order online or call the number listed on the screen, but don't place your order until after you've watched the videos on our website. Thank you from both of us, and God bless.
I never considered myself an alcoholic, but drinking affected my job, health, and relationships. A powerful medication helped me take back control. Now I no longer feel the urge to drink, and the same pill that helped me could help you. Text Newsmax to 710-710 to learn more.
One of my most frequently asked questions is, how do you get your teeth so white? And no, it's not the reflection off my white hair. It's Smile Actives. Boom, right there.
Do you have a yo-yo smile? Sometimes yellow, sometimes white? It's a constant battle between everyday stains and whitening treatments. Until now, get Smile Actives, the daily teeth whitening breakthrough that gives you a more youthful smile and helps you keep it.
Smile Actives is easy, and it works. No gloopy trays, no messy strips.
Just add Smile Actives to your favorite toothpaste and watch the magic happen. Our patented Polyclean microfoam lifts away deep stains for a dramatically younger and whiter smile.
You have a choice. You can have those yellow teeth, or you can be full of confidence. I love my white teeth.
Scan, click, or call for your whitest smile yet. And if you order right now, we'll double your whitening free. Get an extra Smile Actives as our free gift to you, but only while supplies last.
And right now, the best part, buy one, get one free.
100% of users saw whiter teeth. Smile Actives lifts away even the toughest stains from coffee, wine, and food, gently restoring your bright, youthful smile. Plus, it's safe for veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I drink coffee every day. Smile Active, it works. Got your boy gleaming.
Clinically shown to brighten your teeth 5 shades whiter in just 7 days.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Act now. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll double your order. Free. But hurry, this deal won't last. Smile Actives is guaranteed to work. Whiten your teeth or get your money back. No questions asked. Don't wait. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll send you a second bottle absolutely free. That's free shipping. A free extra bottle. That's an incredible 58% savings.
I think we can all agree, no matter what the occasion, when you leave the house, everyone notices a bright white smile.
Scan the code, go to smileactives.com or call to get your beautiful whiter smile now.
Another boat strike. Last night, the United States military launched another strike on an alleged drug smuggling boat in the Eastern Pacific. U.S. Southern Command says 2 male narco-terrorists were killed and no U.S. military forces were killed or hurt. President Trump is not stopping there. Yesterday, the president confirmed that the United States military conducted its first land strike on Venezuela. Border correspondent Jaeson Jones has the latest. Jason?
Oh, Greta, it's good to be with you. And very clearly here, the administration is taking on a new phase with Venezuela, hitting what they're calling the first land operation. But look, at the end of the day here, take a listen. The Department of War and the CIA, they're refusing to make any comment on this. But yesterday, President Trump did. Take a look at what he had to say.
They load the boats up with drugs, so we hit all the boats, and now we hit the area. It's the implementation area. That's where they implement, and that is no longer around.
Is that the only strike that the U.S. has done?
I don't want to comment.
Greta, bottom line here, in 2025, whether you're looking at the strikes that took place here recently or throughout the year, they're logistics based. You know, we started in the Caribbean, we moved to the Pacific, but also look at what the Trump administration did in Mexico, going after the labs, going after some of these logistical networks. That's fine and dandy. Here's the issue here. This is clearly a new phase where we're going into. You and I have talked about this extensively, that at some point, you can't have a total elimination policy, which President Trump does, without going after these key nodes within these cartels specifically. Now, they have done a great job going after the boats, strike them as we have seen over the last few months, and also the attacking these logistics. That's what we've seen. 2026, though, get ready. We've got to go after these cartels and the key nodes and the players who are doing it. You're never going to stop this problem all the way to South America until that part starts. These new waves of attacks, this could very well be what we expect to see in 2026 from the administration. Back to you.
Jaeson Jones, thank you.
Good.
Tomorrow night, millions are expected to head to New York City to ring in the new year. Earlier today, Mayor Eric Adams spoke to reporters about safety for the event. He also gave these parting words for his final days as New York City mayor.
When I started it 4 years ago, no one knew of this woman named Dorothy Mae Adams that raised the mayor of the city of New York. And being able to hold my mother's picture up so the entire globe can see that mothers across the globe sacrificed so much. And so mommy is not the mayor, but she made a mayor. And so it feels good, full circle. And listen, it has been a blast. I'm looking forward to a single malt scotch and a cigar.
At midnight, the ball drops. After that, Adams' replacement, Zohran Mamdani, will be sworn in as New York's mayor. Coming up, a viral video sparking fraud allegations in the millions in Minnesota. That video when the record continues.
You hear the same voices.
Donald Trump knows that's a lie.
From the same people.
Donald Trump is less lucid.
Saying the same thing.
Insults, invective, and outright lies.
And you say, enough! I'm Chris Salcedo, and I'll tell you the real news. You don't believe me? Just tune in.
$600 a year. If you're 50 plus, you could save up to that much by switching 2 unlimited lines from Big Wireless to Consumer Cellular. And we've got the same reliable coverage. So why don't you pick up your phone while I take this hammer and... I can't feel my feet. If you're over 50, get 2 unlimited lines for $30 each. And right now, get your second month free. Call Consumer Cellular.
Muscle cramps were keeping me up at night, so then
I tried Slowmag, the magnesium plus calcium supplement that helps relax tense muscles so I can rest comfortably. And Slowmag tablets have a slow-release formula that's gentle on my stomach. That's why I use Slowmag.
Samaritan's Purse is ready to show the love of Christ to people in the most difficult circumstances. But we can't go without you. With your support, we can build homes, heal hearts, provide critical relief, and bring hope to a world in need. Donate now at SamaritansPurse.org. Let's get to work in Jesus' name.
What if getting older didn't mean living with joint discomfort, brain fog, or low energy? Qualia Senolytic is the only all-in-one clinically tested formula with 9 ingredients designed to help your body clear aging cells. Taken just 2 days a month, this regimen works at the cellular level to rejuvenate energy and support longevity, helping you stay active and energized. With Qualia Senolytic, life truly gets better with age. Start today at qualialife.com/TV.
From the beginning, America has depended on the courage and resilience of those who serve in our armed forces. For 250 years, they've been there for us without fail, putting their lives on the line, defending our freedom, helping us become the nation we are today. At Wounded Warrior Project, our mission honors the past by building a better future for post-9/11 veterans, service members, and their families. Our life-changing programs and services help warriors improve their mental and physical health, access the VA benefits they've earned, and connect with their communities, their purpose, and each other. Warriors have given us their best. Join us in supporting them through the next 250 years of strength, resilience, and recovery. Visit woundedwarriorproject.org/USA250.
Every day, bumps and bangs happen. Bruises are optional. Used daily, dermatologist-recommended Dermend Moisturizing Bruise Cream can help restore your skin's natural barrier and reduce the appearance of bruises. If you have mature skin and bruise easily, get Dermend Moisturizing Bruise Cream in the first aid aisle and get back to having way too much fun.
Cracking down on fraud. Earlier today, the Department of Homeland Security took to X to post, quote, "Our investigative agents are conducting a massive operation to identify, arrest, and remove criminals who are defrauding the American people. We will root out this rampant fraud plaguing Minnesota," end quote. Now, that post comes after a video posted by independent journalist Nick Shirley. His video has gone viral. His video claims to show widespread fraud in Minnesota's child care and welfare programs. Here's part of that video.
Potentially the largest fraud scandal in U.S. history is taking place in Minnesota as literally billions of dollars have been funneled through Somali-ran fraudulent businesses. So much fraud it could actually almost replace the entire GDP of Somalia. These fraudsters have worked hand in hand with the Minnesota government as they enabled billions of dollars to be given to fraudulent businesses underneath welfare purposes. Some of this money eventually landed in the hands of terrorist groups in Somalia like the Al-Shabaab, and others enriched themselves all at the U.S. taxpayers' expense.
Minnesota officials are denying these fraud allegations, and yesterday, Minnesota Department of Children, Youth and Families Commissioner Tiki Brown said this.
We are aware of a video that's being circulated that has gained local and national attention about child care centers in Minnesota. While we have questions about some of the methods that were used in the video, we do take the concerns that the video raises about fraud very seriously. Each of the facilities mentioned in the video has been visited at least once in the last 6 months as part of our typical licensing process. There have been ongoing investigations with several of those centers. None of those investigations uncovered findings of fraud.
Republican State Representative from Minnesota and Chairwoman of the Minnesota Fraud Committee, Kristin Robbins, joins me. Nice to have you join me. And tell me, I know that you've investigated this issue. So is there fraud in Minnesota? I mean, certainly of this magnitude. And how do you know?
Yes, there's widespread fraud in Minnesota. The U.S. Attorney's Office has said it's staggering, and I concur with that. And we are just at the tip of the iceberg. There are charges in several programs already, Feeding Our Future, autism centers, integrated community supports, and we have whistleblowers from a number of other programs, including adult daycare, assisted living, non-emergency medical transportation, childcare. So we are just at the beginning of this process.
Give me an example of the fraud and the magnitude of it that you've investigated.
Well, we've uncovered childcare fraud, assisted living, all the programs I just named. And the U.S. Attorney at their last press conference said that of the 14 program areas that the governor has currently paused payment on very belatedly, that's about $18 billion. And he estimates about half of that may be fraudulent. So up to $9 billion in fraud, which is just staggering. We know they've proven more than $1 billion through Feeding Our Future, through autism, and through integrated community supports. But many of these other vectors of fraud have not been investigated to the point where charges have been brought yet. And I know they're working on it.
Where's this money from? Is this state money or is this federal or a combination of both? Because I know that if the Minnesota people are defrauded, they're going to feel bad. But if the entire nation's being defrauded, the rest of us are going to feel really bad.
Yes, and it's both, unfortunately. So Minnesotans and through the Medicaid program, we have about a 50-50 match generally. And so part of it's state money and part of it is federal tax dollars that come into the state, which is why the feds are involved in investigating and prosecuting these cases.
Have you brought, I know you've had hearings or you've been looking at this, have you brought this to the attention of the administration, of your governor?
Oh my goodness. So many times. I mean, I've had all his commissioners in for hearings. We provided documents to them. Last February of 2024, we had a hearing on the daycare fraud that's in the viral video you talked about. And we provided them a list of 72 childcare providers we thought were concerning. And many of them were the ones Nick Shirley investigated. And as far as I can tell, they've done nothing in the last year. So we've had them in, we've grilled them, we've asked them to tighten it down.
Did they deny that it even exists? Have they bothered to investigate? I mean, have they had no action at all?
I haven't seen any evidence of action taken. In some of the other programs, housing stabilization, they finally closed it down. It was so fraudulent. But in childcare, we have not seen action despite years of, I mean, there was childcare fraud reported before I was even elected, and they have Office of Legislative Reports. They have showing failure of internal controls for years in this childcare area. And my understanding is they just keep passing the buck. So it used to be under DHS. Now it's under this new department, Children, Youth, and Families. So they just keep moving the deck chairs around instead of actually dealing with the fraud.
How does this even happen, though? And is this widespread all over the state of Minnesota or certain pockets of Minnesota?
You know, it's certainly, there's a lot in the metro, which is where the population is concentrated. But I have whistleblowers from all over the state, from Bemidji, from Faribault, from Duluth, from greater Minnesota. So I think it is widespread. And I think wherever people have seen this pattern where people can take advantage of a program that has very little barriers to entry to set up yourself as a provider and then start billing Medicaid, I think that's the sort of business model of fraud they found, and they're doing it.
Minnesota State Representative Kristin Robbins, thank you for joining me, and I hope you come back because I have a feeling this investigation is not going away. Thank you.
No, we are just getting started. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Coming up, could George Clooney be giving up his U.S. citizenship?
Hi, I'm Ben Cozy. Isn't traveling a pain in the neck? You're cramped, uncomfortable, and forget about getting any rest. There's nothing cozy about airplane seats or hard plastic benches, and those so-called travel pillows, they just don't cut it. You don't need another travel pillow. You need Be Cozy, the world's most comfortable neck pillow. Trapped in the middle seat? Wrap Be Cozy around your neck to stop chin drop bobblehead napping. Smashed up against the window? Fold Be Cozy over and tuck it onto your shoulder for super side support. Frequent flyer miles got you sitting aisle? Turn Be Cozy to the side for the perfect pillow position. Everyone wants to be cozy, so get the world's most comfortable travel neck pillow and be cozy just like me, Ben Cozy. You get to be cozy. Everyone gets a Be Cozy. Only Be Cozy has patented overlapping arms so you get double support and the comfort you need in any seat on any trip. Go online right now and get this exclusive TV offer. Buy one Be Cozy, get one 50% off. Get yours now.
I wanted to have control over drinking instead of alcohol having control over me. I started with Or Health about a year ago. It put the brakes on that I had been looking for. I can drink less and say no, and it's the best feeling in the world.
Text Newsmax to 710-710 to learn more.
Hey guys, Viagra is not your only option. Rose Sparks act fast and stay active longer. They aren't pills. Sparks dissolve under your tongue to reach your bloodstream for speedy results. Sildenafil starts things off strong, and Tadalafil stays in your system for longer. More confidence, more control. Rose Sparks. Connect with a provider at ro.co/sparks.
Patriots. America was built by people who believed in something greater than themselves, something worth protecting. Today, one of America's top growing industries is political campaigns, a multi-billion-dollar movement powered by tech, data, and the American people. Meet FullPack, a tech platform trusted by thousands of campaigns nationwide to connect directly with voters. FullPack is expected to begin trading on NASDAQ soon, under the ticker GOTV for Get Out the Vote. But before we begin trading, we're offering a limited number of shares to patriots like you for $5 each, providing your portfolio exposure to this fast-growing market. Capitalism helped build America into the shining beacon on the hill. Now you can own a stake in the heartbeat of America. Visit gotv.com/invest or call 877730-GOTV to learn more.
Total Beats, America's best-selling Beats brand, is available at Walmart. Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews contain a key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. Take control of your health. Head to Walmart and get Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews today.
Yesterday, a Utah court released a transcript from a closed hearing with the Charlie Kirk murder suspect. The October 24th hearing centered around whether accused killer Tyler Robinson must be shackled during court proceedings. Lawyers for Robinson argued against the shackles. They want Robinson to be able to take notes. Now, days after that hearing, the judge ruled Robinson could wear civilian clothes in pretrial hearings, but he must be restrained or supervised at all times. The defense also wants to ban cameras from the courtroom. The judge has yet to rule on that. The judge has ordered an audio recording of the hearing to be released with redactions, which means some parts will be removed. A preliminary hearing is scheduled for the week of May 18. And actor George Clooney and his family are now officially citizens of France. Clooney, his wife, and their 8-year-old twins live part-time on a farm in southern France. In October, Clooney said, quote, "I was worried about raising our kids in L.A. in the culture of Hollywood. I felt like they were never going to get a fair shake in life. I don't want them to be walking around worried about paparazzi. I don't want them being compared to somebody else's famous kids," end quote. So what about Clooney's American citizenship now that he is a French citizen? The Associated Press has reached out to Clooney's representatives, but they have not heard back. So it's not clear if Clooney retained his American citizenship or not. Coming up, Santa brought my Newsmax colleague Carla Babb's family a new pet. It's not what you expect. That when the record continues.
You know, folks, I thank God for my wonderful wife, my kids, my country, the greatest nation ever. And Americans like you who believe in the truth, the Chris Salcedo Show will never stop fighting for you.
The Chris Salcedo Show, for the news you need to know.
There are only a few men I'd trust with my life. 2 of them built this wallet. I've known the guys behind Proof for nearly 20 years, and we've been through hell and back together. When they told me they were building the wallet, I just said, bill me now, I'm in. This isn't some fashion piece. This isn't just some trend. These wallets are a direct reflection of the kind of men who built it. It's built to last, built to function, and designed to carry everything you need and more. If anything happens to it, they'll take care of it. No questions, no fine print. If you knew the guys who created this wallet, you wouldn't carry anything else. Go check them out, because they built this thing right.
Falls are the #1 cause of injury to senior citizens. Falling downstairs can be disastrous. Acorn Stair Lifts has the solution. Just don't fall. Sit, relax, ride, with an Acorn stair lift, the world's leader in stair lifts. That's right, don't let limited mobility keep you from going up and down your stairs, even outside. Call Acorn Stair Lifts now for a free information kit and no obligation quote. Now you can safely ride with your Acorn stair lift.
Now I don't have to worry about him climbing those stairs anymore.
And our Acorn stair lift was very affordable.
Our Acorn stair lift is definitely more affordable than moving.
The Acorn stair lift has a padded seat and backrest for maximum comfort. It easily folds up for access to the stairway. 5 safety sensors stop your Acorn stair lift if there is something in the way. And it even runs during power outages.
I am king of my castle again.
You'll be working directly with the world's leader in stair lifts. That's right, there's no middleman. Acorn's trained technicians professionally install your stair lift directly to the staircase. In most cases, in 2 hours or less. There's no need for special construction. We don't leave until you're completely comfortable using your Acorn stair lift.
Don't risk a serious fall going down the stairs.
I was really surprised at how little it cost.
Call for your free no-obligation information kit and quote from Acorn stair lifts. Just don't fall. Safely ride up and down your steps.
Give your life a lift with Acorn stair lifts.
Call 1-800-908-4077 right now for your free information kit or visit our website today. That number again is 1-800-908-4077. Call now.
Go to balanceofnature.com and lock in 50% off for 1 year when you subscribe to the Whole Health System.
Don't kibble your dog.
Oh, hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
But what's wrong with this? It's premium stuff.
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means it's ultra-processed at extremely high temperatures that destroy the nutrients in the food. But at Dr. Marty, we gently freeze-dried premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, locking in their nutrients.
Never kibbled.
You got it, kid, and they're gonna love it.
Our national security correspondent, Carla Babb, welcomed a new family member. Who? Or maybe better question is, what? A bearded dragon. The dragon even has quite the name. His name is Chill. And according to Carla, her son asked Santa for something special, a wild animal, and this is what he got. Not a lion, not a tiger, not even a monkey, but this special lizard named Chill. Looks like Santa brought a little extra Christmas magic this year. Welcome to the family. The Chris Salcedo Show is up next.